In this video, traders, we're going to talk about all things to do with multiple trades in the same instrument. The risk, the tactical things, the reporting, how our minds deal with it, and whether it's a good idea or not. Stay tuned. Hey traders, warm welcome to you. All right, so great question here from a subscriber. Apologies, I don't have your username to hand. I think it was something M-Tech, Madvern Tech, something like that. Apologies if I butchered it, but great question. And this is really all around the subject of not really adding to positions, but trading multiple positions in the same instrument. So each trade stands alone on its own merit. You might take a kind of deeper pullback on one trade, maybe it's a high tight flag, maybe it's a little scalp trade here. They're all stand alone on by themselves and they're all within your remit of trading, but ultimately you're in the same instrument. Now, from a risk perspective, it's pretty obvious, guys, that the more you trade in the same direction, you're just magnifying the risk. If you take 3 trades in the same direction, the same instrument, if that instrument goes against you, so you're long and it goes lower, you're going to take 3 times the hit. Now, if you're comfortable with that, that's fine. We're all big boys. We all understand the rules of the game. But as long as you're comfortable with it, and you're not going to go on tilt if you take a hit that's 3 times more than you expected, in your mind you're thinking, well, the risk is this and that, and so I'm going to make so much money in this. No. As long as you understand that you are magnifying the risk and the reward that goes with it, which you should do, fine. So that's it. So, but why would you do this? Now, you might say, okay, there are 3 different setups and I want to take each 3 of them and happen to be in the same instrument. And as long as you've planned for this, I think this is okay. I think as long as you accept the risk on it and understand that, hey, if it goes against me, I'm going to get smashed, then fine. But if you're in the right conditions, in the right environment, those 3 setups stand on their own, that's great. Now, that does mean that generally you're not going to aggregate your entry, aggregate your stop. That's a different tactic. That will be scaling into a position or trading around a core. That's not this. This is 3 separate trades. You're not trading around a core. You're not scaling into a trade. You're having them stand on their own 2 feet for each trade. But before we go into that, just another thing to note, guys, is how the broker reports this. Your broker, it varies from broker to broker, but most brokers will average your entry. So if you do 1 at 10, 1 at 15, 1 at 20, say, it will say, hey, you're 3 long at 15. It will average those out and say, hey. And that means when you close one, it will net it off against your average entry. So it's not normally quite how you want it, because you might say, oh, well, actually, I'm netting off the last one because that was a scalp trade, or I just want a little scalp and I'm just going to grab 5 points. The broker won't report that. The broker will report the average. And so something to note is in the reporting, in your statements, in your blotter, it might not match what you're thinking in your mind, and it might not mirror up with the setup you're taking. You're taking a quick scalp trade and thinking, okay, yeah, that was a great profitable trade. It won't show in your records as that if you go to use your broker. So you're going to have to keep your own records for that. You're going to have to say, hey, this scalp trade was 20 to 25. It's a plus 5 point trade. That was that. I've still got my long from 10 and my long from 15, but your broker will say, hey, that was the close from 15. You get the idea. You've got to just be careful how the broker reports it. Sometimes it averages out. Sometimes it does a FIFO type situation. I don't think, do they do FILO? I think, anyway, first in, first out is normally how they do it, but most of the time, it's averaging out, nets out the position, then nets it off. Anyway, that's just a reporting kind of operational consideration to think about. Let's talk about tactics. So tactics, you might say, right, I'm going to take a longer, deeper pullback type trade. So breakout type trade. It's broken out, you take the position. Then maybe you start to see a range bound. You say, I'm going to take a little range bound, low to high, almost mean reversion trade. So you've got your original trade on, and that may have a higher target, but then you've got this little range trade that you're looking for a quick 10 points, 20 points, 50 points, whatever market you're in type trade. Now, as long as you say to yourself, what's the stop for this? Forget I'm in this broader trade. Forget I have a long bias on this already. And that sometimes is hard for people to do. So understand if you don't want to trade in this way, forget I have that. How do I manage this? Well, my stop's going to be here. I've kind of bought just as we broke out here. It's X points. Look at this. Then when it gets to here, you're closing the trade. You're saying, great, thank you very much. There's my plus 15 points, whatever it is. This then still is chugging. And it stands on its own 2 feet as its own trade with its own stop and its own target. And then again, maybe you say, actually now I've got a high tight flag. I want to buy this trade and treat it as a flag and come out above the highs, but I've still got the original buy here. Sometimes it's hard to do mentally because you have that bias and you think, if I lose on this, then it's going to undo some damage of this. But really, it's no different from losing on this than it is to losing on another high type flag you took in another instrument. It makes no difference really for your P&L. You still lost on that and you still gain on this. But for some reason, we kind of struggle with it internally. Of course, the issue is if it comes down on this, you're going to degrade some of the profit on this, and you're going to lose on this trade. So you get a double whammy, just like I spoke about earlier. So as long as you're mentally prepared for that, you understand that, I don't see it as a problem. But a tip that I would give is to distinctly separate these out. If you're taking different trades in the same instrument, different strategies, they've got to stand on their own 2 feet, like I said, their own strategy, their own target, their own ways of managing them, their own position size, their own stop loss, their own risk parameters. X, that goes in that box. Y, that goes in that box. Z, that goes in that box. Treat them all individually, because that's the idea. You're not scaling in, we're not scaling around, we're trading around a core position, we're trading 3 distinct separate strategies. They just happen to have occurred in the same market. If you can do that mentally and be happy with that, and be happy with the overall portfolio risk that you're taking, then fine. I think you treat them as you would individually. You should maybe get stopped out of one, you run the others, you do this, you do that. And as long as you're aware that it has the potential and capacity to put you on tilt, maybe more than trading separate instruments for whatever reason that is in our mind, and you're aware of it and you understand it, then I don't think it's a problem. Like I say, be careful of your broker reporting. It won't report as you want it because it will net things off. Be careful about the risk you're taking as well, and make sure you understand the risk concepts in that. But if you're taking 3 different trades that have a valid strategy that you would normally take, and they happen to be the same instrument, for me, I'm okay with it. Others may disagree, and that's absolutely fine. There's plenty of opportunities out there. We don't have to do that. But that's my thought on multiple trades in the same instrument. Let me know your thoughts, guys. I don't think there's a right or wrong to this. Interested to know your thoughts. Maybe you've come up with something that I haven't considered. Take care, and I'll see you in the next one. Appreciate you watching. Bye-bye.